Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Engineering Career Coach podcast, where we'll be talking with Vinod Narayan. He's a senior software engineer and project manager at Viviota. We'll be talking about the differences in technical and leadership career paths, key skills in project and people management, managing diverse teams and complex projects, and paths of industry growth in both hardware and software fields. I'm your host, Jeff Perry. I'm the leadership and career expert and author of The Intentional Engineer. You can find more information on me and my work at jeff-perry.com. And this is the Engineering Career Coach podcast brought to you by EMI, the first podcast dedicated to helping engineers and technical professionals with both their personal and professional development. Now it's time to jump into the main segment of our episode. Today I have with me Vinod Narayan. Vinod, welcome to the Engineering Career Coach podcast.
Hey Jeff, pleasure to be here.
All right, Vinod, as we get started here, excited to have you. We want to get to know you. So can you tell us about your journey? You've done a number of different things, but tell us about some of those early days, maybe coming from an engineering student to now you're a technology leader in both hardware and software. So tell us a little bit about that journey for you.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, again, thanks for having me here, and I'm really excited and looking forward to our conversation. So, a little bit about myself. In my early days. So, I've been born and brought up in India, and been in North America for over 10 plus years now, US and Canada combined. And I think being in general, very much passionate about technology and engineering in general. And, growing up early days, I've had that inclination and curiosity towards, science and math in general, which allowed me to kind of pursue a career in science and engineering. And I do remember some of my, while I was being an engineering student, I was always kind of inquisitive more and trying to always like to build platforms, build prototypes, like tinker in general, and I remember me being really trying to understand how things work in general, so that kind of helped me to identify some of the areas that I'm passionate about, and I kind of decided to pursue my career in R&D in general, and that's when I think after I completed my master's in electrical and computer engineering from one of the reputed universities in Canada, I started my career in hardware, working for like a mid-sized company, and then I was basically came in as a hardware design engineer, and then I worked for one of the startups after that. There I spent like a couple of years, 3 years, I think. And that was one of the, I would say, like juncture in my journey, because, everybody has their journeys and I would say main points. And that was one of the main point in my journey, because that's where I think I was brought in to work on some of the hardware aspects. But then, it was a startup. So they were asking me to kind of they wanted someone to, do some tasks and try to understand more about the system, the testing, the automation and software and all that. So I basically didn't shy away from that. I was open to those things and I kind of embraced those. And that's when I think I exposed myself to a lot more not only hardware, but system integration, software and all that aspects. So I kind of grew from from hardware to kind of expose myself to coding and languages and software. So that really helped me, I would say. And also there I was also exposed to kind of more of leadership aspects and management aspects of the project and the team. So that really helped me. But I think I worked there for 3 years. But then after 3 years, I think the company was going through some of the changes, and then they kind of basically laid off a lot of people. I was one of them, but I was looking forward to my next opportunity, and that's when, and I was open for taking calculated risks, and that's when I think I got an opportunity down south. So I moved from Canada to US, and I was working for one of the companies. It had a similar role, I would say, but I basically had more exposure in a lot of different areas as compared to previous role. And from there on, I've been being a senior engineer and also like a leader and a manager, working for various different companies, like big companies, small companies, startups. So from there, I worked for J&J, like Johnson & Johnson, working on medical device. There I was brought in as a senior technical leader. So I kind of managed to lead the technical effort, not only like hardware but also software, and also manage the project and key stakeholders, internal, external. So a lot of different responsibilities and scope. And then from there on, I was also like brought in as a head of electrical engineering and software for Starbucks, where I was leading the development for like the retail equipment, and also managing the team, and also like a huge advocate for bringing in the best practices for software and hardware. So yeah, and recently been worked with Meta as an electrical engineering leader, and also working for a startup focusing on data analytics software platforms. So in general, I would say that my career trajectory, as I said, there have been like important points. There were like choices that I had to make, and I think one of the key takeaways is that I was open to those choices, and I was able to capitalize on them, and embrace them and take initiatives. And that kind of helped me to not only like become an expert in hardware, but also extend my capabilities in software, and grow eventually as a technology leader in both the spaces, influence the organizations that I join in.
Okay, so lots of fun and differing types of experiences you've had over the years, and different types of roles, different types of companies you've been a part of, and the industry. So now, one of the things that we often get a lot of people curious about, especially as they're early in their career and trying to chart where they want to go next and what, looking forward, is the difference between kind of taking a technical path
Yeah.
versus taking the management or the leadership path from an engineering standpoint. And you've done some of both as a senior technical person, and gotten into management and leadership. So for engineers who are still trying to figure that out for themselves, what are some of those factors, in your opinion, that they should be thinking about considering when deciding between one path or the other?
Sure. So I believe that there are some important key factors that would come into the play when choosing between technical and management path. And I think for engineers who are early in their careers or in the mid careers, and they're trying to decide between what makes more sense, I would say that some of the key factors, like for example, in technical ladder, you are as an engineer, I think the scope and the responsibilities are going to be quite different, right, as compared to the management ladder. So I think the scope and the responsibilities are still going to be depending on, obviously different companies have different levels and all that, but in general, whether you are like a entry level engineer or like a senior engineer, your scope and the responsibilities are going to be focusing on a lot more technical aspects, right? Technical scope, trying to solve technical challenges, being involved in some of the details, and trying to basically know the technical know-how of the project or the product. If you are like maybe senior in senior engineer, you're probably going to have responsibilities maybe around managing some of the project level responsibilities, and managing some of the key stakeholders, but you're still going to be involved in some level of detail, or being able to influence those technical key decisions. But whereas as far as the management ladder is concerned, I think it's going to be, again, as I said, like going to be quite different, right? You are now expected as part of the if you're a manager, or a director, you're expected to build teams, manage teams, bring that positive atmosphere, or helping enable the teams to work with high efficiency, and enable that positive atmosphere of working in general, and bringing people together, making some strategic key decisions, and also being able to own things, right? And also like lead by example, which would mean that you are taking ownership, you are trying to inculcate best practices, whether it is culture or processes or environment, whatever that is, right? And then also kind of trying to be able to understand people, because I think that is probably one of the key aspects, is to how do you keep yourself motivated, not only yourself motivated but also the team motivated, right? So I think as far as these are some of the key differences that an engineer has to realize when they're trying to make a transition. Because at the end of the day, I mean, leadership and management, it's not for everyone. So as an engineer, or because you get a lot of training as an engineer, but when you're trying to transition, there is no specific official training guide, right? So
Mhm.
it is very important to kind of understand that, and in order to kind of consider making the transition, having their factors, it's very important to realize some of these key things that I just mentioned, and then just talking to people, maybe different leaders, mentors, and trying to understand how it works, and maybe taking an initiative, if there is a short-term initiative, talking to a supervisor, trying to see if it is something that you want to pursue long-term. So those are some of the key, I would say, like techniques or strategies in trying to understand more about whether this is something that is of interest to you. Because at the end of the day, you also want to grow in either way, in either direction you go, and you want to be really loving what you do at the end of the day, right? So having trying to understand more about these different paths and considering these factors, some of the key factors that could influence your decisions, and really trying to understand your personality and interests, is going to allow you to make that choice, whether to go into management, or stay and grow as a technical engineer.
Yeah, some great insights there, and a lot of things to unpack. But just to note, like some things that I might add is, having those opportunities to sort of try out one path or another, right? And also, you were mentioning like, hey, there's not necessarily formal training, but we do need to kind of take ownership for saying, hey, here are gaps that if I'm going to make a transition, and this is at any stage of your career, if there's a technical skill gap, or if you do want to take that management leadership path, you need to find ways to close that. So sometimes there are courses, trainings you can take, certainly finding mentors or coaches who can help to guide you through that process. Because just thinking that you're going to just jump right in and it's
Yeah.
going to be all fine and you're going to know all the answers, it's just unlikely. And that's true of whatever that next step is. And so we want to get that support along the way, like you're talking about there, as we move through the transitions and embrace that. But I want to stay here on this topic of management, of we're managing people, but also projects and processes. In your mind, are there other key skills that we need to make sure to be aware of and grow if we were to go that direction?
Yeah, definitely. I think there are some key skills that we can talk about, in our conversation with respect to project and people management. I believe, in my experience, in both the areas, I think there are some overlapping skills between both project and people management. And some of those skills to mention is, I think, number one, I would say, is effective communication. So
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to like project management, for example, when you're leading and managing project, working with different people, it is, and managing a complex project, it is very important to stay on top of things, right? And the way you do that is, do regular check-ins, doing stand-ups, trying to understand if there are any blockers and removing that as needed. I think is very important. And similarly, as if I draw a parallel with respect to that specific skill in people management, I think, again, it is important to know how your team is doing, how your people are doing. So having those one-on-ones at a regular cadence with your people is extremely important, I think. And along with that, I would say, like, there is also skills related to, like, being an active listener. So whether you are like a project manager or people manager, you have to have that listening trait. It's I think it's one of the key critical skills as a leader and a manager. We want to probably improve on that, because sometimes it doesn't come inherently to a lot of people. So that is something I think it is important. And then also, like, problem solving, whether it is problem solving in project management or problem solving in people management. I think there are different types of problems in both areas that you would encounter. In a project management setting, maybe the problems would be related to the project itself, or there is some issues with some of the stakeholders, or there are different issues that you're battling. Whereas with the people management, again, you're trying to solve problems, but could be related to, like, let's say, for example, there's a conflict, or you want to resolve conflict between the team members. So that's always a tricky one. You got to understand different perspectives and make some strategic decisions over there. So I think there are different kinds of problems solving skills that are required in people management. But apart from that, I think if I were to kind of break it down, I think some of the other skills that are required in project management is, organizing and planning. So it is important to have some best practices there and utilize different project management tools and techniques. There are so many, different tools available nowadays. So making best use of that is important. And along with that, obviously managing budgeting resources, then the time management, and then also trying to point out what are the risks involved from the beginning itself, and trying to do some sort of risk analysis where things could go wrong and what are the mitigation strategies. I think those are probably some of the important skills required in project management. Whereas and now if I come down to people management, I think apart from some of the skills that I mentioned, I think some of the unique skills that are required is, I think, related to fostering, as I said before as well, fostering, like, it is important to have that inclination and motivation and skill to develop an atmosphere which is positive, which is encouraging to your people and team to perform better and efficient and be efficient in their tasks. And then also, trying to bring your trying to, like, hone your leadership style, in the sense that being able to be there for your team time and again, and because they're counting on you as a leader. So showing up and bringing that sense of ownership and leadership and leading by example is very important. And then bringing a sense of a culture to the team, I think that's also important, I believe. And then along with that, I think it is important to encourage, like, whether it is recognition or rewards, or trying to set up, like, workshops and events, and trying to like basically inculcate that sense of development opportunities for the folks, I think is also important. So yeah, so those are some of the key skills, if we were to break down, to be successful in both project management and people management.
Okay, and so obviously some of those things overlap, but some of those things are different if you're just managing the project versus managing the people involved and some of the factors that go into that. Now, as an engineering leader, we're managing projects and people, but also just recognize that in the engineering and technology world, there's a lot of complexities in the things that we're trying to enable our teams to accomplish. So how, and also the diversity of the teams, how people are different inside of that. So there's a lot of complexities there. How do you approach the complexity of all of this as you're trying to bring teams along with some of the important projects and objectives that you're trying to meet?
Yeah, so I think I believe that in my what I have done in some of my experiences, and I can draw from that. I think it is quite challenging, actually, to manage sometimes different teams, coming from different backgrounds, and working on a complex project. And some of the things or strategies that I have done that I can share is essentially trying to, first of all, appreciate the diversity, and trying to one of the techniques that has worked, I would say, is having that regular check-in and effective communication. Because I think if there are like different teams, coming from different cultural backgrounds, and even like different roles, or even working in different geographical regions, I think it is important to have those regular check-ins and regular communication with each other, to understand what's going on and how things could be improved. But also along with that, I think what I have done is, in the past, promoted, like, some sort of like cultural bring that, like, cultural awareness to everyone, like, basically trying to understand, like, if if people are from different cultures, trying to understand that a little bit more, and having that sense of awareness among everyone as well, and appreciate that has helped in general. And also, like, there's I have utilized, trying to utilize like different skill sets, because one of the advantages is that, like, if you're working on a complex project in a challenging environment, it is important to kind of realize that people have different skills. They're coming from diverse backgrounds. It could be cultural, it could be geographical, and it could be like the role specific as well. So it is important to kind of utilize those specific skill sets that are required in some of those specific situations or circumstances. So allowing and identifying those needs, and identifying those resources, and trying to have that synergy is has proven to be quite effective, I would say. And then obviously, also in and also having like people from different teams and the background, I think, I feel that that is an asset at times. I mean, of course, it can be challenging to manage everyone, but I think some of these techniques and approaches that I've used have worked in general, in most of the times. I mean, there have been some difficult times, but in general, I think having that kind of different diversity, what it does is that it brings like different perspectives and outlooks sometimes. So you have like different thoughts, or different thought processes, which is at times is very helpful, when you're trying to make some strategic decisions. So I think those are some of the techniques, I guess, or approaches that I've used in the past to kind of, in my experience, that have been sort of proven successful,
Yeah.
working in a complex project, and working with different teams.
Yeah, well, that's great. And you're talking about the diversity and how important that can be. We don't want everyone to be thinking the same way and just, agreeing with everything else. We actually
Right.
want those diverse perspectives. It helps foster some of that innovation and creativity we're trying to get from our teams that we're building as we continue forward and work on tough problems together, because not everyone is going to look at things and challenges and problems and systems in the same way. And that's a good thing. We want that to be happening. And so the job of the leader is to sort of help unleash that and cultivate that process to unleash some of that creativity in everyone. So, Vinod, with your experience in both hardware and software over the years, are there ways that I mean, one of the things that I notice is that it seems like those lines that used to be pretty separate in hardware and software are blending more and more, right? So, what do you see in the next 5, 10 years as these different fields in hardware and software engineering as we move forward?
Yeah, I think you made an excellent point, Jeff. I would agree with you that the line that used to be quite distinct between hardware and software is now seeming like, more and more like a dot, because it has become, we are living in the era of digitization and digital computing era, I would say. And I think over the next 5 to 10 years, there are a lot of interesting things happening, and my prediction, I think that over the next 5 to 10 years, in the areas of both hardware and software, I would continue to believe that there's going to be a complex blend of hardware and software. And to that end, I believe that we have been obviously talking a lot about AI, artificial intelligence, and I think, I would say that as far as the hardware is concerned, it's going to be very interesting to see, like, based on the demand and the need. I believe there's going to be a lot more development and advancement in terms of custom hardware, custom computing hardware solutions. There are, like, I will call them as like hardware accelerators, which means that there's going to be advancement in the hardware to enable how we can do things much faster, more efficiently, and support like the artificial intelligence capabilities in general, and also support, like, edge computing, supercomputing, and things like that. So I definitely see continued demand and probably work to be done in those areas. I would continue to believe that the metaverse, which composes of augmented reality and virtual reality, in the next 5 to 10 years, as we work on the next generation of computing hardware, where people can essentially wear those glasses or headsets and get transported to to the real, to basically real immersive world. I think that's going to be definitely a big thing. And then really, like, connectivity, right? Connectivity in terms of connecting all the devices over the internet, which is basically called as IoT, Internet of Things. So that connectivity is going to be there. And then also, I would say that there is the 5G communication capabilities that are going to be there. And then I think there's going to be quite a bit of work that I would expect to be done on, like, energy efficient hardware. How you can operate, how you can build hardware that can operate on, like, very low power and low energy. That's going to be, I think, critical, especially for segments like renewable energy. And we're talking about, like, electric cars in general over the next 5 to 10 years to be massive. So those things are going to be critical. I would also see hardware to be kind of, cutting edge in fields like medical device. So medical device and healthcare, that's going to be a big thing as well. So I think those are the different aspects of hardware, I would say, in the next 5 to 10 years are going to continue to be in trend. So people who are interested in making careers in this area should definitely consider pursuing any of these areas. And then as far as the software, as I said, like, whatever I said is applicable to software as well, in some ways or shape or form, because as we just said, like, there is going to be, to me, like, people are talking about AI a lot, artificial intelligence and robotics and automation in general, quite a lot. But to me, I think AI, artificial intelligence, is really a complex blend. And I think I would continue to see definitely software as well in AI and machine learning. And then obviously software in, like, again, we talked about metaverse. So software is going to be there as part of the content platform driven apps, and how you can create immersive world for people, connect them essentially. And then I think probably one of the things with software I would imagine happening is really in cloud. We are talking about cloud computing and different variations of what we can do with cloud and stuff like that. So I think containerization and infrastructure on how you develop software and deploy that software at large scale, I think that's going to be a continuous improvement and innovation process, I think, using the cloud existing cloud infrastructure, and also innovating the cloud infrastructure as we speak. And then I think lastly, I would also imagine software kind of playing an important role in enhancing, like, cybersecurity measures, because as we are continuing to live in, like, we're just going to continue to see the digital world grow and grow, right? So as we are trying to do that, I think the software is going to play an important role in enhancing those security measures as well. So yeah, I think those are, like, some of the specific areas that I see is going to continue to grow and be huge in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, so lots of opportunity depending on industries, software and hardware, and some of the ways we're going to utilize some of these technologies as they continue to go forward. So, this has been a fun conversation. At this point, we're going to move over to our Take Action Today segment. And when we come back, we'll get one final piece of actionable advice from Vinod. We'll be right back. Now it's time for our Take Action Today segment of the show. Vinod, we've had a lot of conversation around, especially leadership, managing people and projects and different things. But for those listeners of ours who are especially thinking about taking that management or leadership path, what's the final piece of actionable advice that you would give to them?
Yeah, so I would suggest for people and individuals who are aspiring to be in leadership roles, to be able to, I think there are different things that you can do, but I would suggest them to take ownership of what you want to do, take calculated risks, embrace the opportunities that are given to you, and showcase that leadership and talent, and basically be able to also talk to mentors and leaders, and try to understand and essentially go in that journey and embrace it as needed.
Okay, sounds good. Well, Vinod, thanks so much for being here with us. If people are interested in connecting with you or learning more about some of the things you're working on, where would you point them to learn more?
Sure. People can reach me on my LinkedIn profile through LinkedIn, and they can get in touch with me. And I would be happy to address any questions or any concerns that any listeners or individuals might have.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much for being here and wishing you nothing but continued success. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Jeff. It's my pleasure to be here, and I really enjoyed this conversation with you.
I hope you enjoyed the episode today. We would love to hear your feedback, comments, and questions. You can go to engineeringmanagementinstitute.org, where you'll find a summary of the key points discussed in the episode, as well as links to any of the resources or websites that we mentioned in the episode. And don't forget to check out any upcoming live webinars for this month at the website as well. Additionally, for any engineers who feel like they need extra help taking the next career step or finding clarity in their careers, I've created some free training resources with an opportunity to join a more intensive program called the Engineering Career Accelerator. You can find more information at engineeringcareeraccelerator.com, or you can go grab my Career Clarity Checklist found at www.engineeringcareeraccelerator.com/career-clarity. Until next time, I wish you the best in all of your engineering endeavors.